Chapter 555, My Name Will Start to Spread, 4. Not too bad to have you guys as punching bags. I can defeat all of you in 20 moves. Disciples from Empietianshui walked out with overbearing confidence. Let's do it. I'll make sure all of you admit your defeat today. The youth in the center raised his hand as he drew his long sword. Ha, great. Huayu cast a look at Yu Linger and the rest behind him. They had the absolute confidence in winning this 5-on-5 group battle. There was no hesitation for them. With Wang Xian around, they had 100% chance of winning. Your guidance is much appreciated, said Wang Xian with his sword in his hand as Yu Linger and the rest walked over and put up a ready stance. His sword was still in the scabbard when he spoke. However, his sword was drawn as soon as he finished. I've never seen this lad in Empietianshui before. Upon seeing Wang Xian ready to strike at them, the 5 young men from Empietianshui furrowed their brows. The petite girl brought several youngsters over with a broad smile. The young man who had her in his arms even whispered to her that 2 chickens were pecking each other. Then, they looked up at them. You're so eager for a beating. Beichuan's senior brother, thrash Empietianshui. Seeking your own doom. Beichuan's senior brother, teach them a lesson. The group of surrounding disciples from Empietianshui cheered loudly. Digging your own graves. Coldness flashed across Wang Beichuan and his gang as they drew their swords. 4 water clones with swords in their hands popped out around Wang Xian as he jerked his body. Wang Xian was also wrapped in the water current. Illusory sword. The surroundings were instantly filled with mist after the sword left the scabbard. Insignificant trick. The disciples from Empietianshui watched the strike from Wang Xian with contempt. Let's do it too. Immediately, Huayu called out to his members after he was stunned by Wang Xian, who took the lead. Where's the next location? Bam, bam, bam. However, all the water clones and illusory swords before them dissipated at this time. Along with which came 5 crashing sounds. No, how is this impossible? Wow, damn. He's powerful. Only shocking and painful moans were left in the air. Wang Xian was already standing at the spot where the 5 young men stood while they were lying on the floor. Next, Huayu stammered with a stupefied look. Next is Empietianshui, ranked 17th. Huayu only managed to complete his sentence after a long time. Let's go. Wang Xian turned around as he spoke to Huayu. Wait, big brother. Hang on. Huayu looked like he was in a trance before he sprinted to a mountain in front of the training field of Empietianshui. On that mountain was a spiritual stone, which he gently pulled. Okay, our ranking is up. We're going to Empietianshui. Let's go. Sensing the impatience of Wang Xian, he hurriedly assured him, let's go, big brother. The disciples from Empietianshui behind him were dumbfounded. They expected a win, but not an instant kill. They stared blankly at Wang Xian with a hint of horror in their eyes. The new disciple from Empietianshui was not a simple character. Yu Linger felt even more complicated as she fixed her eyes on Wang Xian in a daze. Empietianshui's disciples rode on their swords and left, and the entire process only took 2 minutes. All the disciples from Empietianshui were stunned, looking at the 5 senior brothers lying on the ground. Instant kill. He could knock out Beichuan's senior brother and the rest single-handedly. The strength of that young man was so damn strong. How did this happen? When did Empietianshui recruit such a powerful disciple? All the disciples of Empietianshui revealed an incredulous look. They knew Empietianshui like the back of their hands. But now, it turned out. How did this happen? The strength of that young man. Several youngsters beside that petite girl had shock plastered on their faces. This is interesting. Empietianshui actually recruits a disciple who possesses remarkable strength. The young man who was holding the petite girl in his eyes had a brief stunned moment before he commented with flickering radiance in his eyes. He's quite strong. I'd guess he's at least a half step to Dan realm, and somewhat skilled in his illusory swords and water clones. Another young man nodded in agreement. Given his strength, he should be able to lead Emifengyu into the top 15. Almost there. The rest of the Emifengyu disciples are just too lousy. Those disciples who came from the mountain sect that was ranked 12th began to comment. Interesting. Let's follow them and see how far that lad can lead Emifengyu in terms of ranking. The young man smiled with his lips quirked. He stood on the sword and rode away. Let's follow them. It was a surprise for Emifengyu to have an expert. I want to check out their results too. Wang Beichuan swept the water droplets off his body with embarrassment as he spoke with a sullen face. Let's go. The group of Tianshui disciples hesitated before they hopped on their swords and headed to Tianshui. Next. Just when the Tianshui disciples arrived at Tianshui, a clear and icy tone cut the air. Everyone froze. The young man who had the petite girl in his arm raised his eyebrow. Consuming his physical strength at such a rate is not wise. If he continues his incessant challenges, he can only stop at 15th. There are half-step to Dan realm experts within the top 15 sects. Some of them commented when they saw Emifengyu disciples rushing over to another mountain sect. Let's keep up with them this time. The group of youngsters darted out while the Tianshui disciples followed suit. Those Tianshui disciples who had just been defeated also went over with curiosity. A total of 90 disciples from 2 mountain sects followed behind. When they arrived at the mountain sect ranked 16th, the disciples in that mountain sect were freaking out. It's just a challenge. Why did so many people come and make me jump? A wild and young man walked out, beckoning some of the surrounding disciples. 10 seconds later. Damn, he's awesome. Another kill in seconds. They're going to Wuyin. But Qin Shan from Wuyin is a half-step to Dan realm expert. It's impossible to achieve another kill within seconds. This disciple from Emifengyu is really fierce. I bet he could beat Qin Shan. The disciples of Emifengyu rode on their swords with over 100 followers behind them. All the followers were those who had been defeated by them. Damn, killing in seconds. It took him just one move to finish 5 strongest experts within the mountain sect. Now that they are challenging another mountain sect, they cannot miss it. All the people behind the disciples of Emifengyu were discussing how far this new disciple could go. Seeing all the disciples from 16, 17, 18 placings following behind them, the disciples of Emifengyu exhibited thrills on their faces. In the beginning, they had scorned this new disciple who just joined. But it soon developed from shock to respect, and eventually worship. Instant kill. The ranking of Emifengyu leveled up a lot, and the resources in the ancestral sect almost doubled. Chapter 556, My Name Will Start to Spread, 5. Great, great. Now that Qin Hai has reached the half-step to Dan realm, our Wuyin can now compete with Jiuhua. At this moment, a middle-aged man within Wuyin faced the crowd of youths before him as he exclaimed. Master, rest assured. Give me 10 days. In 10 days, Brother Qin Shan and I will definitely challenge Jiuhua and raise our ranking to 14th. On the training field of Wuyin, a young man stood before 30 other disciples with his head lifted up proudly as he remarked confidently. Alright, Jiuhua has 2 half-step to Dan realm disciples currently. Therefore, all our remaining disciples have to practice diligently and aim to achieve the breakthrough by the end of the year, the middle-aged mentor said to his disciples with a smile. Yes, Master. All 30 disciples were brimming with ambition. We definitely should try to get into the top 10. Disciples of Emifengyu are here to challenge. At this moment, a shout could be heard. Everyone in Wuyin was taken aback, including the middle-aged mentor. He turned his head around, looked to his left and was shocked by what he saw. Over 100. Over 100 people were flying towards the training field of Wuyin on their swords. Mt Fengyu. The 18th ranked Mt Fengyu, the middle-aged mentor, frowned slightly and was clearly feeling something was dubious. Where are you guys from? The middle-aged mentor looked across the crowd while shouting solemnly. Get down. Mentor Du of Mt Wuyin is around. The disciples who were flying in the air landed on the ground immediately. Mentor Du, we are disciples from Mt Fengyu. When Hua Yu landed on the ground, he lifted his head slightly and was brimming with confidence. Under normal circumstances, Mt Fengyu disciple wouldn't be as flamboyant as Hua Yu was when he was facing the disciples from Mt Wuyin. We are here to challenge Mt Wuyin. Huh? Mentor Du raised an eyebrow. The 18th ranked Mt Fengyu is challenging us, Mt Wuyin. Are you guys crazy? Before Mentor Du could say a word, a disciple shouted at Hua Yu directly. Mentor Du didn't say a word as he looked suspiciously at the 100-odd disciples. Mt Fengyu only had 20-odd disciples. Senior brothers, we have just challenged Mt Xianshui, therefore. Please guide us along, said Hua Yu. Wang Xian stood by the side with his sword while staring at the disciples of Mt Wuyin. This disciple of Mt Fengyu is too strong. Relying on his personal strength alone, he has brought Mt Fengyu from the 18th rank to challenging the 15th rank mountain sect. He's definitely at the half-step to Dan realm. Moreover, he could be considered to be among the elites of the half-step to Dan realm. His use of illusory swords and water clones is indeed terrifying. I wonder if Qin Shan would be a match for him. If Qin Shan loses, Mt Fengyu's ranking will rise to 15. Behind them, the disciples of Mt Tianshui, Mt Xianshui, and Mt Sansheng were discussing softly. Half-step to Dan realm. The disciples of Mt Wuyin were slightly surprised. They finally understood a little and their attention landed on Wang Xian. No wonder Mt Fengyu is acting so arrogant. So they have a half-step to Dan realm disciple. Qin Hai squinted his eyes slightly, stared at Wang Xian and gave an eerie smirk. Half-step to Dan realm. Mentor Du looked at Wang Xian and his lips curved up slightly. He didn't say a word. He crossed his arms and simply stood by the side while watching the developments with a smile. A half-step to Dan realm disciple was dreaming of defeating his Mt Wuyin. What a far-fetched dream. Are you the only one representing Mt Fengyu? Qin Hai lifted his head slightly, stared at Wang Xian and asked this plainly. Send out 5 disciples from Mt Wuyin and stop wasting my time. Wang Xian looked across the disciples of Mt Wuyin and commented without emotions. Stop wasting your time. How arrogant. Today, no one else from Mt Wuyin has to make a move. I can finish you off by myself. A flash of ruthlessness gleamed in Qin Hai's eyes. He waved his long sword and ripples formed in the air. That's Qin Hai from Mt Wuyin, and in Mt Wuyin, he's only weaker than Qin Shan. What does he mean? He knows clearly that this disciple from Mt Fengyu is at the half-step to Dan realm and yet he's going to challenge him alone. Could it be? Could it be? Qin Hai has completed the breakthrough. Seeing Qin Hai charging ahead alone, the surrounding disciples were astonished. Haha, how dare you challenge us, Mt Wuyin, with just a single half-step to Dan realm disciple. You guys are really courting your own demise. Initially, I was still thinking of only revealing my strength when we challenge Mt Jiuhua. For today, you can be my testing stone. Qin Hai laughed confidently, shocking the surrounding disciples of Mt Tianshui and Mt Xianshui. Qin Hai has made the breakthrough to half-step to Dan realm. Mt Wuyin has 2 half-step to Dan realm disciples now. It's over. The disciples of Mt Fengyu will be beaten to their knees on Mt Wuyin. When the surrounding disciples heard Qin Hai, they were astonished. As for the crowd from Mt Wuyin, they looked at the surrounding crowd with contempt and ridicule. Before this group of disciples, there was still a young man standing by the side with his hands crossed while watching with a confident smile. Who would have thought that Mt Wuyin would have 2 half-step to Dan realm disciples now? It would seem that Mt Fengyu's progress will end here. That's about the same as I expected. The young man carrying the petite girl chuckled and commented. That's not a given yet. The disciple from Mifengyu knocked out the disciples of Mt. Sanfeng instantly. Perhaps he could still win this, the petite girl retorted the young man. Xiao Yeye, you don't understand. A half-step to Dan realm expert could easily win against 7 to 8 inborn experts. Therefore, the instant knockout was still as expected. However, for those at the same level, the young man spoke in an educating tone. Suddenly, his eyes widened. 1 down, 4 to go. Wang Xian's emotionless voice stunned the surrounding crowd. Their jaws dropped and their eyes were filled with disbelief. Wang Xian didn't stop moving as he charged towards the group of disciples from Mt. Wuyin. His eyes were fixed on Qin Shan, who still had his arms crossed. His strength. Fight! Qin Shan's eyelids twitched violently as he shouted bitterly and drew his longsword. The other 3 disciples behind him drew their swords too immediately and charged towards Wang Xian. Bam! However, the group saw Qin Hai knocked to the ground heavily at this moment. Qin Hai, instantly knocked out. A half-step to Dan realm disciple couldn't put up the slightest of resistance at the moment against Wang Xian. The disciples of Mt. Tianshui, Mt. Xianshui, and others stared in disbelief. Could it be he has reached the Dan realm? It cannot be. Shit! A Dan realm expert. Instantly knocking out a half-step to Dan realm expert. This insane level of strength. His attack hasn't reached the level of a Dan realm expert. He dominated completely with just swordsmanship. His control of water energy and general control are off the charts. On one end, Mentor Du's eyes widened in disbelief. He let down his crossed arms gradually, eyes still remaining on Wang Xian. How can he be so insanely strong before reaching the Dan realm? When the surrounding disciples heard Mentor Du, they couldn't help but be impressed and shocked. Wu Yu twitched the corner of his lips while the rest of the disciples lowered their heads in silence. Next, Mt. Yuan, ranked 11th. Mt. Yuan has 10 half-step to Dan realm experts. If they send their best 5, I wonder if they could go against this senior brother. He looks so young, and I have never heard of him before. How can he be so powerful? He's simply too strong, and look at his aloof and dashing profile. I want to marry senior brother. Chapter 558, The Name of the Dragon King. Casual and carefree while taking off on his sword. All the disciples around stared blankly at the leaving figure. Not a single one wasn't impressed and surprised. Why haven't I seen this senior brother before? How did he just shoot up so suddenly? He is definitely peerless below the Dan realm. In fact, he might even be able to go toe-to-toe with a Dan realm expert. I'm certain that he has definitely reached the Dan realm. Otherwise, he wouldn't be that incredible. Disciples from various mountain sects discussed fervently as they saw Wang Xian leaving. Mentor Du said that his attacks haven't reached the Dan realm. It is just that his swordsmanship and ability to control water are too insane. Mt. Fengyu has really shot to fandom. He has carried the mountain sect on his shoulders alone and has contributed to the rise. The comments of the surrounding crowd slowly made their way to the ears of the 20-odd disciples from Mt. Fengyu. Their feelings were complicated. Some were agitated but most were exhilarated. Now that Mt. Fengyu had risen from 19th to the 11th, the resources allocated to them would increase 3 to 4-fold. Considering that Mt. Fengyu had few disciples, everyone would be able to get substantially more resources and they would also improve drastically. Yu Linger stared at that figure blankly, feeling exceptionally conflicted. Once, their Mt. Fengyu was also an incredibly strong mountain sect in Dahong Immortal sect. Her father was even the strongest existence on the ranking board of youths of various mountain sections. He was the #1 disciple of Dahong Immortal sect. The glory days had since departed from Mt. Fengyu for over 10 years. During these years, Mt. Fengyu had fallen to the bottom of the mountain sections. Her mother was supporting Mt. Fengyu desperately. She would have never expected the young man that fell from the waterfall, the one who gave her a scare and the one her mother took out precious elixir pills to save would be so incredibly strong. I have been against him. He probably doesn't have a good impression of me now. No. He hasn't been looking into my eyes from the very beginning. At the thought of this, Yu Linger felt bitter. Hey, brothers from Emtifengyu. What's the name of this senior brother? When did he join your Emtifengyu? At this moment, curious questions came from the surrounding disciples of various mountain sections. Several hundred disciples, with the majority of them being even stronger than them, were staring at them. Wang Xian. Our senior brother's name is Wang Xian. Wang Xian. Senior brother Wang Xian. The surrounding disciples mumbled to themselves as they etched this name into their minds. After this day, the name of Wang Xian would definitely be known throughout the Hong Immortal sect. He told us his name is Wang Xian and that others call him the Dragon King. Yu Linger mumbled to herself. What? Junior sister Linger, what did you just say? His name is Dragon King. A disciple from Hifengyu standing by the side was shocked as he looked at Yu Linger with doubts. Yeah. Yu Linger nodded her head. Dragon King. Ha! This name is truly domineering. The Dragon King that creates clouds, casts rain and stirs waves on the surface of the seas. A really apt name, a disciple from Hifengyu exclaimed loudly. Dragon King. What a domineering name. The surrounding crowd and disciples were taken aback but exclaimed with a smile soon after. That's a really domineering name. Dragon King. Dragon King. Wang Xian wasn't aware that what he said casually when he first regained consciousness was now starting to spread throughout the Hong Immortal sect. In the Hong Immortal sect, disciples would end their day of training after 5 p.m. All the disciples from various mountain sects could choose to head to the Martial Peak to spar with others. Alternatively, they could continue their practice. They could also head to the Sword Cleansing Peak to sharpen their weapons, to the Pill Hill to purchase elixir pills, or even to the Scripture Depository to read books. Whenever the evening arrived, the areas around the main peak would be exceptionally lively. Look! Emtifengyu's ranking has increased by 8 in a single day. How can this? How can Emtifengyu be ranked so highly? Last I recalled, weren't they the second from the bottom? Their entire mountain sect only has 20 disciples. It's because of a disciple from Emtifengyu. He is extremely strong and defeated 8 mountain sects alone. Today, disciples from 6 to 7 sects witnessed with their own eyes how he challenged one mountain sect after another. He's really strong. A disciple defeated 8 mountain sects in a single day. Could he have Dan realm level strength? I'm not certain. Others are calling him the Dragon King. What a domineering name. Dragon King. Who gave him the guts to call himself that? He's arrogant. He had the capital to do so. He defeated 8 mountain sects on his own, including crushing 5 half-step to Dan realm disciples easily. These half-step to Dan realm disciples are all really strong and tough. The surrounding disciples around the main peak stared at the leaderboard vigilantly while discussing in awe. The news of a single disciple from Hifengyu defeating 8 mountain sects alone quickly spread among various disciples. Some were shocked while others were surprised. However, there were more who weren't convinced. I heard that the Dragon King of Hifengyu wanted to challenge the 10th-ranked MT Jillian. However, it was getting late and thus he gave up on the idea. If he had not, I believe Hifengyu would still be able to increase its ranking by several spots. Yeah. The Dragon King is really strong. He definitely has the strength to go against Dan realm disciples. Several disciples that had gone along to spectate in the afternoon looked at the leaderboard on the cliff as they exclaimed emotionally. He needs to at least be in the Dan realm for him to challenge the 10th-ranked mountain sect. An insignificant disciple calling himself the Dragon King? What a joke. How arrogant. There's not a single supreme talent in the bottom 10 mountain sections. There's nothing to be proud of after defeating a pile of scraps. At this moment, several disciples walked over, glanced at the leaderboard and spoke with indignance. Huh? Several youths looked at the other disciples, frowned and remarked, "That's because you guys haven't witnessed the strength of the Dragon King. If you guys had, you wouldn't be saying the same." Dragon King? Who the hell is he? If he dares to challenge us, our senior brother Su Fa will teach home a lesson so well that he will be humble. Calling himself the Dragon King? What a joke, several disciples remarked in contempt. They shook their heads and continued, "A disciple that rules over the bottom 10 mountain sects will at most be capable of being a leader of a flock of chickens." Several disciples were full of indignance as they walked past them. Some youths opened their mouths and wanted to say something but eventually chose not to. Indeed, senior brother Dragon King from Ifengyu had not defeated a Dan Realm disciple. And that senior brother Su Fa. They lifted their heads and looked at the leaderboard of youths in the Hong Immortal sect. First, Hong Tianda. Budding Realm. Second, Piao Lingxue. Budding Realm. Third, Ao Shuwen. Budding Realm. The name of the Dragon King isn't something he is qualified to be addressed as. Tianyi Swordsman, Hong Tianda. Wandering Snow Sword, Piao Lingxue. Fengyun Sword, Ao Shuwen. All of them are in the Budding Realm. Moreover, all of them are ranked in the top 20 among the younger generation of disciples in the Hong Immortal sect. He will only be considered as one of the most outstanding talents in the Hong Immortal sect after he gets into the top 20. Before that, who the hell is the Dragon King? While the crowd was in awe with the frantic advancement of Fengyu up the ranking charts, most of the disciples in the top 10 mountain sect were nonchalant. In their eyes, an 11th ranked mountain wasn't something that would impress them. So what if he defeated 8 mountain sects alone? Does he have the guts to challenge our mountain sect? We will teach that Dragon King how to be humble. Calling himself the Dragon King. Is he qualified to accept this title? The ranking of a mountain sect determines how much resources the mentor can receive. Take this token, and you can enter the scriptures depository. The time remaining for your stay is around 1 day. Mentor Yu continued to explain, next month, all of you will receive 5 hours of reading time in the scriptures depository. At the same time, you can enter the first story of the scriptures depository. Wang Xian nodded. Thank you, Mentor Yu. You're welcome. Chapter 560, Another Insane Aspect of the System. Ding. Mastered Art of Water Refining. Refine all equipment with the origin source water. Refine all equipment with the origin source water. Wang Xian's lips curved into a smile. What's the most lucrative business? Refining equipment and elixir pills. With the almost cheating level origin source flame to refine, Wang Xian had never failed and the effects of his refining were 100% retained. He could fully rely on this method to earn a huge amount of resources. If he could obtain sufficient elixir pills and spiritual equipment, he could consume these elixir pills to boost his strength or keep them to be distributed to the Dragonians or members of the Dragon Palace subsequently. Otherwise, how could they ever match up to the people from Yongchang World? Wang Xian also knew that other than Yongchang World, there were 9 other cauldron worlds. In perhaps a few years, they would all surface in the real world. Wang Xian's eyes beamed as he looked towards the direction of the Path of Swords. He walked straight towards it. What is this? When he entered the region of the Path of Sword, Wang Xian saw various jade stones on top of books and scriptures. There weren't many jade stones, with each one being separated by a certain distance. In the entire region, there were only 7 jade stones. Battle Techniques Imaging. Inject spiritual and mental energy into the jade stones to see the images of battle techniques. Imaging. Could it be similar to the jade stone I saw earlier today that are capable of recording? Spirit arrays are indeed exceptionally mystical. Wang Xian was in awe. He picked up the jade stone and found a line of instructions below it. Water clone. Water clone. What's the difference between this and the water clone I'm capable of creating? Wang Xian was slightly shocked. He held the jade stone with both hands, focused his mind and injected spiritual energy into it. Wang. The next instant, a mystical image appeared in the mind of Wang Xian. A human figure started demonstrating before his eyes. The circulation of water energy, control. The demonstration lasted for a full 30 seconds. As compared to what Wang Xian had come up with previously, this water clone was more perfected and agile. Ding! Master Preliminary Battle Technique, Water Clone. At this moment, the voice of the system sounded, shocking Wang Xian completely. A notification from the system. It's a notification from the system. All along, there had been extremely few notifications from the system. Other than the exceptions of the construction of the Dragon Palace and mastering refining arts, there weren't any other notifications. He had not expected the system to prompt that he had mastered Water Clone after watching the battle techniques imaging. Could it be that I have to fulfill a certain requirement before the system will release a notification? This system is really lonesome. If it could issue missions, rewards or an item exchange framework, it would then be perfect. My own development still has to rely on myself. How depressing. Wang Xian heaved a huge sigh. However, what Wang Xian didn't know was that a divine dragon didn't need to master any battle techniques. Once he achieved the first divine dragon transformation, he would automatically receive the legacy of superpower. Superpower was a tier above battle techniques. However, it was also because Wang Xian wasn't certain of the path ahead that he could open a path to invincibility that belonged only to him. In Wang Xian's mind, the foundation had to be solid. It would always be great to acquire more knowledge. The reason why powerful humans could slay a dragon was exactly that they had mastered a range of subjects. Wang Xian placed the battle techniques imaging jadestone back in its original position. He looked around and realized something really interesting. Wang Xian even saw an explanatory book on water clone by Sword Immortal Hong Yun that was placed in the middle of this region. Sword Immortal. An existence that was likely in the immortal realm. It would seem that mastering water clone wouldn't be easy for other disciples. They might even need several or even dozens of years to understand. As for myself, I'm feeling like I have mastered all the important aspects of water clone in an instant. Wang Xian's eyes beamed with excitement. He walked to the other battle techniques imaging jadestone. Sword. Preliminary sword edge storm technique. Wang Xian lifted the battle techniques imaging jadestone and started deciphering. Ding. Mastered preliminary battle technique, sword edge. Sword edge. Creating the blade of the sword with extremely chilling water. A disciple that I fought in the day seemed to be using this move. However, he was easily defeated as there is a huge difference in strength between him and me. Wang Xian's eyes beamed with excitement. Sword edge could be used for ranged attacks and close combat. Continue. Ding. Mastered preliminary battle technique, instant shift. Ding. Mastered preliminary battle technique, sword imprisonment. Ding. Mastered preliminary battle technique, sword explosion. Ding. Mastered preliminary battle technique, sword cloud. Ding. Moss. Chapter 561, Defeat Enemy in One Strike, Top 20 of Dahong. Martial artists, regardless of which era they were in, were known to be inattentive to details, and commonly preferred to keep a long unkempt hairstyle. But this young man was clean-cut and had short hair. His eyes were extremely sharp and he looked obstinate and unruly. Wang Xian was deep in thought when he noticed the young man in front of him. Instinctively, he moved aside. Oh. Is the Dragon King always such a wuss? The young man exclaimed after seeing Wang Xian sidestepping to his right. His derisive look intensified while his arms folded behind him and he smiled coldly at Wang Xian. Wang Xian stopped and slowly raised his head, peering at the young man. That's the phantom, Kong Guanglin. Kong Guanglin is pitting himself against the Dragon King. How dare a disciple under a mountain sect that is ranked 11 call himself Dragon King? He is just an arrogant and impertinent kid. Dragon King. That title irks me to no end. Is he able to live up to such a title? Ha, this is getting interesting. The Phantom Kong Guanglin is ranked among the top 20 of the Dahong Immortal Sect's list of outstanding youths. He is also the head honcho of MT Jillian. Coming from a mountain sect that was ranked 10th, you can imagine how strong he is to be able to rank among the top 20 outstanding youths. I guess it was the Dragon King trying to challenge MT Jillian yesterday that led to the ire of Kong Guanglin, which is why he is finding fault with him today. You can't blame anyone for your actions. It is important not to show your arrogance in front of Dahong Immortal Sect. Otherwise, you will be dealt with severely by experts. The surrounding disciples taunted from the sides when they saw Kong Guanglin staring at Wang Xian. Most of these disciples came from the top 10 mountain sections. They had scoffed at the Dragon King ever since they heard about him, and now they were elated at the sight of Kong Guanglin confronting him. I heard that there are rewards for being ranked among the outstanding youths. Wang Xian looked at Kong Guanglin and asked this casually, at the same time shifting his glance to the enormous cliff beside him. Kong Guanglin was momentarily startled before replying with a cold stare. What a maniac you are. If you are ranked among the top 20 outstanding youths, you will be rewarded handsomely every month. Unfortunately, you are not qualified to enjoy such a privilege. Simple. I will just have to defeat you to qualify. Wang Xian had his eyes on Kong Guanglin and spoke calmly in his direction. Ha, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. I love your guts. As a consequence of your preposterous challenge, I will cripple your arm. Kong Guanglin laughed at Wang Xian's words, staring at him coldly at the same time. Such arrogance. Senior brother Kong, destroy this kid and let him know how strong MT Jillian is. How dare you challenge senior brother Kong? You will soon pay the price for your insolence. The disciples who were following behind Kong Guanglin glared at Wang Xian with contempt. For someone with such mediocre strength, he sure talks big. He does talk big. Challenging Kong Guanglin. I don't know where he finds the confidence to even propose that. Ha, interesting. The Dragon King versus the Phantom Kong Guanglin. The surrounding audience was slightly taken aback by Wang Xian's intention to fight Kong Guanglin, but at the same time, they were thrilled by the proposition. It has been a while since someone showed such arrogance in front of me. That broadsword you wield is a fine piece of weaponry. If you lose, I will get to keep it. Kong Guanglin pointed at Wang Xian with roaring laughter. Today, I, Kong Guanglin, have a new challenger, the Dragon King. Fellow brothers, come witness our fight at the Martial Peak. Kong Guanglin's voice echoed through the surroundings, and everyone within a radius of 1,000 meters was able to hear him loud and clear. Ha! As soon as he finished speaking, he made a loud chuckle and flew towards the Martial Peak with his sword in hand. Is it true that the winner gets to keep the loser's possessions? As Wang Xian watched Kong Guanglin move towards the peak, his face was beaming. He followed closely behind and flew towards the Martial Peak as well. What? The Dragon King is challenging Kong Guanglin? Is he trying to court his death? Such arrogance and conceit are as good as courting death. Let us head over and see how Senior Brother Kong oppresses that show-off. Senior Brother Kong will not show any mercy to his opponents. Every one of his moves will be extremely deadly. The disciples of the Scriptures Depository, as well as those from the neighboring peaks, were delighted to hear the voice of Kong Guanglin. One by one they headed towards the Martial Peak. Even the weakest among the top 20 disciples of the Dahong Immortal sect ranked in the Dan realm. This match between the two experts would undoubtedly be exciting to watch. Wang Xian took a look at the surrounding disciples with a faint smile. It was obvious that Kong Guanglin was here to find trouble with him. But this was exactly what he wanted as well. Boom! Wang Xian landed himself in one of the arenas as he realized that there were at least 50 arenas on Marshall Peak. The arena that they were about to compete in was situated near the top of the peak. Kong Guanglin had already entered the arena while he stared at Wang Xian with contempt. The group of Dahong Immortal sect disciples levitated themselves and surrounded the arena. Their faces were filled with excitement. Come, I will teach you a lesson today and not to be impudent in front of Dahong Immortal sect. Always stay low profile and humble here. Kong Guanglin raised his broad sword in the direction of the descending Wang Xian. I will let you attack first, he said mockingly. Hear ye. This is exactly how we will educate our new batch of newcomers every time. Things are getting interesting. If the Dragon King is taught a lesson by Kong Guanglin today, then his title will be nothing but a joke in the future. The surrounding crowd mocked Wang Xian, unbridled. Have a taste of my battle technique. Wang Xian said lightly with a faint smile. Channeling water energy into his body, Wang Xian thrust forward with his unsheathed broadsword. Sword edge. Water clone. In an instant, Wang Xian moved his broadsword, bursting water energy and casting two battle techniques at the same time. The water clone, armed with a sword edge, made a slash for Kong Guanglin. The real water clone battle technique did not create a clone that appeared as a blob of bluish water but as an exact clone of Wang Xian. Huh? Water clone? You dare to use the water clone battle technique in front of me, the phantom? Kong Guanglin saw Wang Xian's battle technique and spoke with disdain in his eyes. With a turn of his body, he generated 5 exact clones of himself. Kill! With a wave of his arm, his water clone started to attack in the direction of Wang Xian's water clone. The two were about 100 meters apart, with eyes on each other. Kong Guanglin slowly formed a smile as his water clones assailed. Poof! 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 But his face soon turned stiff as he realized that his water clones had been easily destroyed without showing any sign of resistance. Sword edge. Excellent. I wasn't expecting your water clone to be controlling a sword edge. An ingenious move. Kong Guanglin showed slight respect for his opponent with his broadsword now unsheathed. Clang! The 10 tiers blade with ripples appearing on its back struck towards sword edge. Chapter 562, Doubting One's Existence. The Dragon King is pretty strong. Using his water clone to control the sword edge, he easily broke through Senior Brother Kong's water clone. He's pretty strong, but it is going to end soon. Senior Brother Kong has gotten serious. He has even started using his 10 tiers blade. Over 500 disciples hovered in the air on their swords around the battle. When the battle started, they had stopped discussing as they watched attentively. Seeing Wang Xian's attack, the surrounding disciples were shocked. However, that remained as such. Senior Brother Kong had gotten serious. If the Dragon King was simply what the rumors had mentioned, there would be no uncertainty in this battle. Every single disciple that was in the top 20 was insanely powerful. Break! Kong Guanglin shouted as he swung his long sword onto the sword edge. Instant shift. Seeing Kong Guanglin's attack, Wang Xian shimmered in blue light. Wang! Instant shift. Where there was water, one could erupt with twice the speed that he typically could achieve. When Kong Guanglin slashed at the sword edge, Wang Xian's body merged with his water clone. Bam! The sword edge was crushed by Kong Guanglin. However, before he could even get excited, a sword scabbard landed on his chest. Bam! What? Kong Guanglin's eyes widened in disbelief as he started spewing blood uncontrollably. Wang Xian walked silently to Kong Guanglin and looked down on him. Creating a rope out of water, he took the long sword in Kong Guanglin's hands away. He also took the bag of approximately 200 spiritual stones away. You. When Kong Guanglin saw Wang Xian taking away his spiritual stones and spiritual longsword, he felt greatly humiliated. Thank you. Wang Xian looked at him and spoke plainly. Subsequently, the longsword he retrieved went below his legs as he took off into the sky. Swish! Wang Xian left the place with the crowd completely dumbfounded. SSS. The surrounding disciples gasped in astonishment as they stared blankly at Kong Guanglin, who was still on the floor. He just lost. Kong Guanglin has just lost. Isn't that a little too darn simple? Is this considered a move or two? Freak. The Dragon King. It isn't just us who are feeling overwhelmed. Even Kong Guanglin must be feeling a little overwhelmed currently. Look. His eyes are dead. As the 20th ranked disciple, he didn't even manage to last 2 moves. The Dragon King is indeed strong. The question is how strong he really is. Damn. He's too strong. When he challenged the other disciples during the day, not a single mountain sect lasted more than 10 seconds. Even Kong Guanglin met the same outcome. I believe his strength would easily place him within the top 10 supreme talents. Where did this monster come from? What he just used was probably sword edge and perhaps instant shift. His speed exploded by several times. It was so fast that I didn't even catch a glimpse of him moving. When Wang Xian's figure disappeared completely from sight, exclamations broke out from the surroundings. In the arena, Kong Guanglin stood up gradually. He still looked a little out of sorts. Did I just lose? I wasn't careless just now and yet I lost. His strength. Kong Guanglin lifted his head and looked in the direction where the figure had disappeared. Suddenly, a helpless feeling welled up within him. When he first heard of the name of the Dragon King today, he had snorted with contempt. When he saw the so-called Dragon King entering the scripture depository, he wanted to teach him a lesson right away. However, he would have never expected this outcome. 10 seconds? Perhaps not even that. Around him, when the disciples saw the desolation in Kong Guanglin's eyes, they were even more astonished. The 20th ranked supreme talent in Dahong Immortal sect was beaten so completely that he started doubting his life. He didn't speak of having a second match ambitiously and he didn't lower his head with shame. Instead, he started doubting his life. The Dragon King will truly be on the rise after this. If he could defeat Kong Guanglin so easily, he would definitely be considered among the ranks of the supreme talents of Dahong Immortal sect. Similarly, he will definitely make it to the top 10. A middle-aged man remarked emotionally while envy beamed in his eyes. After this incident, there would probably not be a single person who would say the Dragon King was a pushover. Once again, a shining disciple had appeared within the immortal sect. Great. With this level of talents, he isn't any inferior to the top 3 disciples. Hee. Our Dahong Immortal sect is really lucky to have a disciple like him appearing at this juncture. Although the underworld outside is really trashy, we will still have to compete with the other 9 cauldron worlds. Having a supreme talent disciple will definitely be a positive thing. With his strength, it is almost certain that he will rank in the top 10. Yeah, that's about right. Sword edge, water clone and instant shift. Is he a disciple that Yu has been secretly grooming? At the peak of Martial Peak, 2 old men were playing chess. They looked down and commented with a smile. 200 spiritual stones. I wonder what I could buy with spiritual stones in this world. Also, this level 10 inborn spiritual sword can be sold too. I wonder how much it is worth in spiritual stones. Wang Xian thought to himself. He looked in the direction of Yu and flew directly towards it. The reward today was really pathetic. I only got a single spiritual stone. I didn't even get one. The spiritual stones in the spiritual or mine are getting fewer and fewer. We've got to think of other ways to earn spiritual stones soon. Where are you thinking of going? Could it be you are thinking of heading to Yongchang City to work? Would you even be able to get 10 spiritual stones in a month? To buy level 5 spiritual medicine, you would need 200 to 300 spiritual stones. Have you guys forgotten that senior brother Wang Xian has raised the ranking of our MDFNU to 11? Each of us will at least be getting 20 spiritual stones for the coming month. Oh yeah. I had almost forgotten about this. Ha! It's great to have senior brother Wang Xian around. Just as Wang Xian arrived at MDFNU, he heard the conversation between the 6 disciples from MDFNU. Spiritual or mine? Earning spiritual stones? Wang Xian sank into deep thought. Spiritual stones could be used to enhance cultivation. The speed of cultivation using spiritual stones would be 4 to 5 times that of ordinary cultivation. However, cultivation using spiritual stones was highly exhaustive. A spiritual stone would not even last for an entire day of cultivation. Therefore, few disciples were willing to use them for training. Hey guys! Wang Xian looked at the 6 disciples and shouted. Huh? Hey, senior brother Wang Xian. What can we do for you? When the 6 disciples saw Wang Xian, they replied with respect and anxiety. Where can I find the spiritual or mine? Where else could I earn spiritual stones? Wang Xian asked. Oh. Spiritual or mine? The spiritual stone mine can be found behind our Dahong immortal sect. However, it has been excavated for more than 1,000 years. There is almost nothing left in it. A male disciple answered in a hurry. Soon, he continued, to earn spiritual stones and resources, you can also head to Yongchang City to look for a job other than excavating the spiritual or mine. With senior brother Wang Xian's strength, you will be able to get 20 to 30 spiritual stones per month as a mentor. Yongchang City. Are there any equipment refining or elixir pill refining shops in the city? Yeah. If senior brother knows how to refine equipment or elixir pills, it will be even easier to earn spiritual stones. Senior brother, why don't we bring you to Yongchang City for a tour? No thanks. It's all right. They would provide you with a certain set of materials in exchange for a fixed amount of spiritual equipment or elixir pills. As for the remaining materials, they were considered as the freelancer's remuneration. For Wang Xian, this was the perfect arrangement. He strongly believed that with his insane origin source arts, he would obtain an unimaginable amount of resources regardless of whether he had chosen equipment refining or elixir pills refining. Not a second to waste. For an internal alchemist, they would receive a fixed amount of spiritual stones each month after passing the assessment. As for freelance alchemist, he would have to collect materials from Saint Forge Workshop and submit a fixed amount of elixir pills. If there were materials remaining, Saint Forge Workshop would have no claim to them. Chapter 564, Open Shop. The reason why Wang Xian had chosen to apply to be an alchemist was mainly because he wanted to increase his level. With the immense energy within elixir pills, he could increase his level to level 9. Freelance alchemist? Hey kid, you sure are confident of yourself. Master Qingming looked at Wang Xian in shock and said, it's really rare to see an alchemist as young as you are. Wang Xian smiled in response but didn't say a word. When Master Qingming witnessed Wang Xian's composure, he got ready to give him an assessment. He is. Isn't this the Dragon King from Yifengyu? At this moment, an exclamation sounded from the side. Wang Xian was surprised too and turned his head to look to the side. A young man was observing him inquisitively. He really is. Seeing Wang Xian looking over, the young man's lips curved into a smile. He scrutinized Wang Xian from top to bottom, rubbed his chin and remarked, I don't see any deer horns or dragon whiskers. It would seem that he's not living up to his name. Ha! Xingzhan, you are really hilarious. Deer horns and dragon whiskers. Should he also have a tail? Another young man joked and laughed out loud. Retards. Upon hearing their conversation, a cold light flashed in Wang Xian's eyes as he remarked coldly. Huh. Huh. The group of young men were stunned, including the one who was holding his long sword in his hand. Retard? He just called Xingzhan and the rest retards. At that instant, the smile on the two young men stiffened as their eyes went cold. Wang Xian looked away and didn't pay attention to them. People like them would have been crippled by him if they were in the underworld. Hey kid. Do you have the guts to repeat yourself? Xingzhan pulled a long face and glowered at Wang Xian. Wang Xian didn't bother at all. He turned to Master Qingming and asked, Master, can we start the assessment now? Assessment? Sure. Master Qingming glanced at Wang Xian and nodded his head. Really arrogant. Ruthlessness gleamed in the eyes of Xingzhan and the other young man. They exchanged glances and their lips curved into a smirk. Brother Ao, you will have to stand up for us. The two of them turned around and spoke with a smile to the young man holding the sword. You guys are my brothers. The young man with the level 12 spiritual equipment spoke plainly before turning to Master Xuanhua. Master Xuanhua, these two are my brothers. Can you do me a small favor? The young man asked Master Xuanhua with a faint smile. Ha! Since young Master Ao has spoken, this is just a small matter. Master Xuanhua naturally knew what the young man was hinting at. He waved his hand nonchalantly, looked to Master Qingming and said, Old Ming, we are not accepting this alchemist. All right. Since young Master Ao has spoken, it's only natural that we show him face. Master Qingming had no hesitation at all. He smiled, looked at Wang Xian and said plainly, Kid, as you have seen, you have offended those who you shouldn't have. Huh? Wang Xian's eyes squinted together and killing intent gleamed in his eyes. Your name is Dragon King. They have asked you to scram. Why are you still here? Xingzhan looked at Wang Xian with ridicule. He walked towards Wang Xian before continuing, let me tell you this. You can forget about joining the Saint Forge workshop in this lifetime. Moreover, I can guarantee that no alchemist workshop will accept you. If you don't believe it, you can give it a try. You are the first person who has dared to scold us. Therefore, you will have to pay a price you never would have expected. The other young man crossed his arms before his chest while staring at Wang Xian. All right. I'll remember this. Wang Xian looked at them emotionlessly. He looked plainly across the five of them, Master Qingming and the rest before heading out. TSK. How ignorant. When we get back, it's time to investigate the background of this Dragon King. Interesting. He actually dares to scold us. This kid probably didn't know who we are. However, ignorance doesn't equate to bliss in our place. If he wishes to find a job as an alchemist, I'll make sure he won't find one in the entire Yongchang city. Ha! Just leave this to me. I have connections with basically all the alchemists in Yongchang city. Chapter 565, The First Customer, 1. I have a shop now. Next, it's the customers. After Wang Xian and the middle-aged landlord settled the store together, the moon was already up in the sky. Wang Xian took a look at the tiny shop with a satisfied look on his face. He did not want to open a shop in the first place for fear of too much trouble. The alchemy and equipment refining system in the Yongchang world was already matured. Hence, there was no direct sale of spiritual grass and materials. Instead, all the alchemy and equipment refining stores would collect and procure spiritual grass and materials for refining equipment. This prohibited Wang Xian from earning the difference of self-purchasing spiritual grass to refine his own elixir pills. Many things had been monopolized in the small and prosperous Yongchang. No one would need to worry about the materials when going into the store, as they could straightaway forge their items. But opening a shop by himself meant that customers would have to prepare all the materials by themselves. But he would not sell elixir pills or weapons, but rather, he would provide a processing service. When customers approached him with materials, he would refine them into elixir pills and spiritual equipment. This would be the first store that provided such a service in the all of Yongchang. He created this type of store not for its uniqueness, but rather, it was a helpless act. If not, I'd have to stay in the shop and wait for business every day. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows, but soon, he straightened out his thoughts. At present, there was nothing to learn in Emtifengyu either. He had already mastered the first level of battle techniques. To learn the second level, he needed to come up with resources for exchange. 2,000 spiritual stones in a day. This was a massive number to any disciple of Dahong Immortal sect. Unless the disciples came from a wealthy background whereby their parents could afford such an amount, ordinary disciples would not be able to cough out 2,000 spiritual stones. There's nothing to do even if I stay in Emtifengyu. Why don't I just inform Mentor Yu? Wang Xian hesitated before he locked up the store and rode off to Dahong Immortal sect on his sword. Mentor Yu, you're still up. Wang Xian came to the living room and was surprised to see Mentor Yu having tea. He hurriedly greeted her in shock. Waiting for you to get back. I did not expect your strength to be so great. Mentor Yu exclaimed as she looked at Wang Xian with glistening eyes. She did not expect that the injured young man she picked up from the waterfall could promote Emtifengyu by 9 positions in one day. It was beyond my expectation too. Wang Xian smiled and did not comment further. Since you beat Kong Guanglin today, cease your individual challenges and mountain sect challenges for the time being, said Mentor Yu. Why? Wang Xian was startled as he looked at Mentor Yu. 10th place is good for us. The disciples of Emtifengyu are not eligible to access the resources for 10th position and below. Besides, making a showy display on your ability might not be a good idea, said Mentor Yu to Wang Xian. Wang Xian revealed a contemplative look as he understood what Mentor Yu was trying to say. Emtifengyu's disciples were weak. If they received resources that were completely unmatched with their own strength, it would trigger grievances and jealousy. Though no one would say anything on the surface, some finger-pointing from the others was inevitable. If a Dan Realm disciple decided to seek trouble from an inborn disciple, that would be an easy job even with Dahong Immortal sect's rules and regulations in place. How about the individual leaderboard? Asked Wang Xian. If you possess the strength of the top 3, you may go ahead and challenge as you wish. I'll be claiming our resources for the Mountain Sect and your resources for the 20th position of individual outstanding supreme talents. Mentor Yu exhibited a smile. Yes, Mentor Yu. Wang Xian nodded with gratefulness. Have a good rest. Mentor Yu walked up the stairs as soon as she finished talking to Wang Xian. Wang Xian looked at the disappearing figure and smiled. Mentor Yu was considered to be the closest person to him in this Yongchang world. I must repay her gratitude in the future. Wang Xian pondered to himself. He did not return to his room, but rather headed to Yongchang City on his sword. When he arrived at the marketplace of Yongchang City, Wang Xian did not rest. He went shopping and bought 3 signboards. A horizontal one and 2 vertical ones. On the horizontal one, he engraved Alchemy and Blacksmith Master. The other 2 signboards were used for the introduction. Bring your own materials. Refining pills by an alchemy master. Bring your own materials. Forging by a blacksmith master. Wang Xian revealed a satisfying look as he hung the signboards outside his shop. He then went to purchase some tables, chairs, and tools at night. After 3 hours of work, he finally got the entire shop ready. Now, I'll just wait for business to come. Wang Xian revealed a faint smile and came to the third story to rest. The next morning, he opened the shop early and waited for customers to come in. The daily traffic volume was crazy in the central area of Yongchang City. From early in the morning, there was non-stop human flow in front of the stores on the street. However, no one entered the store. Compared to the shops around him, his shop was tiny. Besides, his decoration was far off from those shops around him. It was a stark contrast, as his shop looked run down. The elixir stores had posh decorations and a refreshing and spirit-lifting herb smell at the entrance, while one could sense sharpness from the other weapon stores even from afar. His shop did not have any features. Alchemy and blacksmith master. What a brag. How can such a small store have masters around? Why would such a master reside in such a small place? Now that our spiritual stones are becoming fewer, unscrupulous businessmen are increasing. Haha, it's just a tiny, 20 square meter place, and the signboard puts alchemy and blacksmith master. Pooey. A new shop. This is obviously a scam. If such masters were around, they would hold an opening ceremony. That would naturally draw the attention of the crowd. Scammers. Some passers-by took a peek inside the shop with curiosity when they saw the signboards outside. But after they took a look at the shop, they commented disdainfully. Many people passed by the shop from morning to afternoon. Some people noticed the signboards, but all of them were disdainful and ridiculed them. How is it possible to have a master in a tiny shop like this? Besides, why would masters be staying here? This is typical lousy marketing. Wang Xian was sitting in the shop as he overheard the sarcastic remarks mentioned by the passers-by as they stopped by for a brief moment. However, he was not disheartened and waited patiently. This was his first day of business, and he remained patient. Cream would always rise up to the top. He would make his name known in Yongchang soon. Chapter 566, The First Customer, 2. Saint Forge Workshop couldn't even fix your weapon. They aren't living up to their name. This is just a level 11 weapon. At the entrance of the Saint Forge Workshop, two girls walked out from the workshop with disappointed looks. A young girl with two ponytails pouted and grumbled unhappily. Bo Yu is too unique and they aren't confident. The main reason is still because we have too few materials. The other girl beside the girl with the ponytails frowned and was clearly a little unhappy. Sister Xue, why don't I get you a piece of level 1 spiritual equipment as a gift? Seeing Sister Xue frowning, the girl with the ponytails held her arm and spoke with a smile. Bo Yu is the most suitable weapon for me. Moreover, this was given to me from my grandma and I have been carrying it for over 20 years. The other girl shook her head. It's all because of that brat from Yongchang Immortal Sect. TSK. Sister, you should have trimmed away all his hair. The girl with the ponytails waved her fists angrily. The other girl remained silent and didn't say a word. Her eyes looked in the direction of another forge workshop. What a joke. A small shop like this and yet they dare to claim they have an alchemist master and a blacksmith master. They are really taking customers as fools. Exactly. Look at this shop. There's nothing in there. No weapons or elixir pills. It must be a scam. At this moment, the girls heard the voices of two middle-aged men. That girl's eyes followed the source of the voice and looked across. Huh. It's just as they have said. What an interesting shop. Alchemist master and alchemist master refining personally for you. Customers to prepare all materials. They sure are arrogant. However, this shop is pathetically small. Isn't this too obvious of a scam? The young girl with the ponytails was also attracted by the conversation of the two middle-aged men. She looked towards the shop and blinked her eyes speechlessly. Why would an alchemist master or a blacksmith master remain in a small shop like this? TSK. The owner is really brainless, the young girl with the ponytails continued and found this to be hilarious. The other girl looked inside the shop and was clearly hesitating. Sister Shui, let's go to Bai Ling Forge Workshop. They also have a famous blacksmith master. The young girl looked away from that shop, pointed to another weapon shop a short distance away and spoke. Huh. However, when she saw the other girl, she realized that the other girl was staring at the shop beside her and was in deep thought. Sister Shui, you can't be thinking that this small little shop really has a blacksmith master, the young girl with ponytails exclaimed. I know the blacksmith master from Bai Ling Forge Workshop. He's a lot weaker than Master Xuanhua. The other girl frowned and walked directly into the shop. Sister Shui, you. How can you even believe the notice outside this shop? The young girl with ponytails shouted but still followed behind. I'm just thinking of giving it a try. It wouldn't take up much time either. The other girl insisted and walked ahead. She was just hoping for a miracle. Alright. If there isn't any blacksmith master in this shop, I'll report this shop and seal it up, the young girl with the ponytails exclaimed as she pouted and walked into the shop. Huh? Customer. Wang Xian was seated in the shop while manipulating small water clones in his hands when he saw the two girls walking in. He lifted his head and stood up. Does this shop have a blacksmith master? When the girls stepped into the shop, they looked around before their attention fell on Wang Xian. Yeah. Wang Xian looked at the girls and eventually at the short sword in the girl's hand. He was able to tell that the short sword wasn't ordinary from a single glance at the scabbard. No matter how I look at it, your shop just seems like a scam to me. Swish. The other girl pulled out the short sword from the scabbard. The short sword was as light as a feather and as white as snow. The entire blade was as thick as a piece of paper and seemingly transparent. However, the tip of the blade was chipped off. Level 11 Spiritual Weapon. The name of the sword is Bo Yu. Can you restore it? The other girl asked directly. Restore. Wang Xian raised an eyebrow and took Bo Yu from the other girl. Where are the materials? Wang Xian asked directly. Bing Yi metal. The other girl took out a piece of metal that was a little transparent. Bing Yi metal, level 12. What a waste of precious materials. Wang Xian mumbled softly when he saw the piece of metal in the girl's hand. Huh? What do you mean by wasting precious materials? When the young girl with ponytails heard Wang Xian, she questioned him right away. She had seen Wang Xian as a scammer all along. Using level 12 materials to forge a level 11 weapon. That's obviously a waste of precious materials. Wang Xian spoke to the young girl with ponytails. Can you restore it? The other girl frowned and asked. The truth was she wasn't harboring high hopes on it. So what if we are using level 12 materials to forge a level 11 spiritual weapon? The young girl with ponytails retorted and was seemingly looking down on Wang Xian for not understanding. Yes. As for remuneration, Wang Xian nodded his head and observed the materials in the girl's hand. He was estimating the amount that would be left before assessing if he would require further remuneration. 2,000 spiritual stones. As long as you can restore it, I can give you 2,000 spiritual stones. Before Wang Xian answered, the girl interrupted. Huh? Wang Xian raised an eyebrow and said, all right. The remaining materials will belong to me. All right. The girl didn't hesitate for a moment as she stared fervently at Wang Xian. That's only if you can restore my Bo Yu. Get your spiritual stones ready and give me 10 minutes. Wang Xian took the Bing Yi medal from the girl and went to the second floor right away. This. The young girl with ponytails looked at the back view of Wang Xian with doubts and mumbled, is the alchemist master on the higher floors? Let's wait for 10 minutes, the other girl said to the young girl. I keep having the feeling that this shop is a little strange and weird. The young girl mumbled on. After which, she looked around and continued, there aren't even chairs for customers to rest in. What kind of wretched shop is this? The other girl also frowned. However, she wasn't worried that this shop was up to something. No one dared to scam her, Piao Lingxue. Who would have thought that my first business would be so lucrative? 2,000 spiritual stones and the remaining materials. Wang Xian went to the second floor and his eyes were beaming with excitement. It would seem that opening this shop was the right decision after all. Looking at the Boyu sword in his hands, Wang Xian's lips curved into a smile. Art of water refining. Wang Xian waved his arm and sat on the floor. A pool of water energy surfaced before him as he threw Boyu sword on it. Ding! Would you like to use the origin source water to refine spiritual equipment? At this moment, the notification of the system popped up, making Wang Xian smirk. Refine. At that moment, scorching heat was emitted from his body. The origin source water was boiling at an incredible temperature. This was an application of water energy and was known as boiling water. Using the art of water refining to refine equipment was the equivalent of refining with boiling water. At this time, the young girl looked at the timer on her wrist and remarked impatiently downstairs. The girl furrowed her brows slightly. It's been 10 minutes already. Obviously, he can't fix Boyu. If he can't fix it, why did he say 10 minutes? Is he playing games with us? The more I see this shop, the more I feel it's unreliable. The young girl scanned around and noticed that there were no valuable items around. Suspiciously, she speculated, Sister Shui, do you think this shop is a scam? Chapter 568, The Two Shocked Girls, 2. Scammer up there, you better get down here right away. The young girl with ponytails held her belt sword and resembled a furious kitten. While walking up furiously, she shouted. Huh! Wang Xian retrieved the last Boyu sword from it and revealed a satisfied expression. In the end, he heard the shouts of the young girl with ponytails right away. Wang Xian raised an eyebrow. There's nothing up here in this wretched place. Where's the blacksmith master? At this moment, the young girl with ponytails appeared on the second floor. She walked into the room where Wang Xian was while observing the surroundings. Other than 2 tables and 2 benches, there was nothing else on the second floor. Hey, scammer! What tricks are you up to? The young girl with ponytails held her sword at Wang Xian as she demanded, where's Sister Shui's Boyu sword? Behind the young girl with ponytails, the other girl was clearly unhappy when she saw the short sword in Wang Xian's hands was still kept within the scabbard. You are here at the right time. It's done. Wang Xian wasn't bothered by the young girl's fury as he threw the Boyu sword to the other girl. It's done. The other girl was doubtful as she caught her short sword. Swish! A crisp sound reverberated as the short sword was drawn from the scabbard. Ha! Ha! 2 exclamations broke out as the girls looked at the Boyu sword. Swish! As she swung her arms around lightly, snowflake-like miniature Boyu swords appeared on the main Boyu sword. It's restored. Oh my god! It's really restored. The other girl beamed with excitement as she moved her hands over the previously broken spot with disbelief. Sister Shui, this. Is it really fixed? The young girl with ponytails by the side was astonished as she stared blankly at the Boyu sword in the other girl's hands. It's indeed Boyu sword. Moreover, there's no difference from the one I'd been using previously. The other girl was agitated. She moved her palm slightly and controlled Boyu sword to rotate it above her palm. Snowflake-like miniature Boyu swords appeared, making it extremely captivating. Something isn't right with the sword hilt. At this moment, the other girl felt something amiss with her Boyu sword. She grabbed onto the hilt of the sword right away as she examined the hilt immediately. Doubt flashed in her eyes. Did he do something to it? As I said, he's definitely up to something. This is a scam. A scam. The young girl with ponytails rumbled on instantly and stared harshly at Wang Xian. Bo Yu sword has indeed been restored. Wang Xian faced the young girl with ponytails and continued, as for the sword hilt, there are 6 layers in it which I can restore any time you wish. I was wondering if this lady here is interested in purchasing some weapons. As he spoke, his gaze shifted to the other girl. Bo Yu sword has indeed been restored. As for the sword hilt, it's not a huge matter. It's just. The other girl lifted her head and looked at Wang Xian with shock and doubt. What are you trying to sell me? Give me the sword. Wang Xian extended his hands towards the girl as he spoke. The girl didn't hesitate at all and handed Bo Yu's sword to Wang Xian. Wang Xian shifted his palm and the 6 miniature Bo Yu swords, roughly the size of 2 fingers, shot into the sword's hilt. He held Bo Yu's sword in his hand before swinging it. Wang! The Bo Yu sword was triggered and 6 miniature Bo Yu swords shot ahead. The next moment, they rotated and returned to the Bo Yu sword. The entire process lasted for only seconds. Wang Xian held the Bo Yu sword upright and manipulated the 6 miniature Bo Yu swords to circle around the main sword. I have used the remaining materials to forge 6 level 11 miniature Bo Yu swords. These miniature Bo Yu swords can form a set with the main sword. This. At this moment, the girl was dumbfounded. Her eyes were fixed on the miniature swords circling around the main Bo Yu sword. Astonishment was written all over her face. This. You. She was incoherent. She knew clearly after using the Bo Yu sword for over 20 years. Now that there were 6 additional miniature Bo Yu swords, just the attacking aspect would be several times stronger. Moreover, these 6 miniature swords were all level 11 spiritual equipment. Level 11 spiritual equipment. Although weapons used for sneak attacks were relatively cheaper, that was only a relative concept. Level 11 spiritual equipment was still level 11 spiritual equipment. The most crucial point was Wang Xian had made the 6 miniature Bo Yu swords to be a set with the main Bo Yu sword. Naturally, she knew how incredibly strong set weapons were. An entire set of weapons could greatly enhance one's strength. Although the 6 miniature swords were different from the typical armor-type equipment, they could still greatly enhance her attacking potency. These were all created by you. When the girl spoke, she immediately realized how dumb her question was. There was no one else other than him in the entire shop. Just a while ago, they were still doubting if this was all just a scam. This young man is a blacksmith master. Moreover, he's a great blacksmith master. Astonishment flashed across the eyes of the girl. She had seen many geniuses and supreme talents in Yongchang world. In fact, she was widely regarded as one of them. Yet, she was still deeply shocked to see such a young blacksmith master. How long had it been? Just over 10 minutes. In this period, he had restored her spiritual sword. This was something that the famous master Xuanhua couldn't even restore. What was the most insane was that he had even forged 6 other miniature swords to make them into a set. This incredible refining technique was comparable to the work of God. What do you think? Upon hearing that girl, Wang Xian smiled and responded. What? You really are a blacksmith master? The young girl with ponytails widened her eyes as she stared with disbelief at Wang Xian. A young man like him is a blacksmith master. This isn't a scam. Instead, this was a shop opened by an insanely incredible blacksmith master. Would this lady like to purchase these 6 miniature swords? Sensing the fervent looks on the girl, Wang Xian asked once again with a smile. Yes. Quote me a price. Just as he finished his question, the girl answered resolutely. The value of a set of weapons isn't comparable to ordinary spiritual equipment after all. However, you are my first customer. I'll charge you the market rate for each miniature sword. Wang Xian replied to the girl directly. Market price? All right. The girl nodded her head without a moment of hesitation. Purchasing these swords at the market price was definitely a great deal. Level 11 equipment used for ambushing is roughly 5,000 spiritual stones each. Since there are 6, it will be 30,000 spiritual stones. As Wang Xian spoke, excitement beamed in his eyes. She tugged Piao Lingxue by the arm. Don't you eavesdrop. We'll go down now. The young girl pointed at Wang Xian and grabbed Piao Lingxue's arm. She whispered, Sister Xue, we can refer disciples in our mountain sect to him since this cheapskate fellow is a blacksmith master. It's not easy to find one. Besides, this silly fellow doesn't have any business. If we bring out his reputation, the girls in the sects will readily agree to it. They are probably wishing for this. Upon hearing how the young girl addressed Wang Xian, Piao Lingxue smiled with flickering radiance in her eyes. Indeed. Average disciples are not qualified to get a blacksmith master to forge their spiritual weapons. There was a cunning look in Piao Lingxue's eyes. She did not know why this blacksmith master was in such a miserable state, but this was beneficial to her. Master! Piao Lingxue called out to the second floor as she craned her head. What is it? Wang Xian walked down from the second floor and looked at them. I'll go back to gather the spiritual stones, and refer you some customers. What is your closing time? Asked Piao Lingxue to Wang Xian. I'll always be here, said Wang Xian to the two girls. Great, we'll be right back. Piao Lingxue nodded as she headed outside with the young girl. Refer me more customers for refining elixir pills too. I'll give you more of a discount. Wang Xian's voice came from behind. Piao Lingxue paused for a while with a cold face. To think that she was the most talented girl of Emtishui Immortal Sect. Now she became someone who needed to rely on such a method for some spiritual stones discount. Her face was blushing slightly as she felt embarrassed. You said it. Wait for us. The young girl, on the other hand, was very excited. Sister Xue, let's gather all the disciples who need to forge their weapons and refine elixir pills. And then, Hayak, let's just take the 6 miniature swords for free. The young girl clenched her fists with an excited look. She spoke with a resolution. I want this cheapskate fellow to vomit blood. Customers for elixir pills? Don't tell me this guy knows alchemy too. Could he be an alchemist master? No, that couldn't be possible. After Piao Lingxue calmed down, she recalled what Wang Xian had said. Unlike the young girl, she was not silly or naive. However, it was hard for her to believe that he was a master of alchemy too. To become a blacksmith master for a guy in his 20s was already sick enough. How could he be an alchemy master too? Forget it, we'll find out in due time. Piao Lingxue's eyes gleamed as she looked at her bow yu in her hand. She was in a chirpy mood as she headed to Emtishui with the young girl on their swords. Emtishui, the mountain sect in second placing among the Hung Immortal Sect, was a unique sect as all their disciples were female. Emtishui never took in male disciples. As the number 2 mountain sect among the Hung Immortal Sects, the disciples were incomparable with those from Emtifengyu. There were over 200 female disciples. No one dared to provoke any girls from Emtishui in the entire De Hung Immortal Sects or even in the Yongchang world. Not only because the leader, Piao Lingxue, was strong, but also because they had many admirers. Emtishui was 4 or 5 times larger than Emtifengyu. In the evening, the entire Emtishui was unusually lively. Disciples of other mountain sects such as Immortal Slaying Sect and Yongchang Immortal Sect were all present. As for refining elixir pills, you can leave it to senior brother Yifeng. At this moment, several young men from Yongchang Immortal Sect frowned and explained to Mu Wanbai. Wanbai, senior brother Yifeng has agreed to refine elixir pills for the disciples of our empty Shui. This is a valuable opportunity. Bailing pulled Mu Wanbai aside, looked at one of the young men and spoke to her. Huh? Senior brother Yifeng? Senior brother O Ziming? Mu Wanbai was taken aback as she looked at the prideful group of young men. The young man lifted his head slightly. He was wearing exquisite red armor which emitted dense fire energy. Despite facing everyone, he still looked as proud as a peacock. Senior brother Yifeng. Mu Wanbai exclaimed. Yifeng was a descendant of an immortal in Yongchang Immortal Sect. Although he was the 10th generation, he was still a descendant of an immortal. At the same time, Yifeng was known for his incredible alchemy skills. He could refine level 5 elixir pills. His reputation could even match O Ziming. And he was only in his 30s. Yeah. Yifeng nodded his head plainly at Mu Wanbai, still looking as prideful as ever. Sister Bailing. Senior brother Yifeng has just been able to refine level 5 elixir pills. Level 5 elixir pills are only effective for inborn level disciples. For Dan Realm disciples, only level 6 elixir pills would be useful. Mu Wanbai said to the two tall girls by her side. Senior brother Yifeng will be able to borrow the Wan Pill Cauldron from his family for the next month. His success rate for level 5 elixir pills will be 40%. Moreover, he has a certain chance of successfully refining level 6 elixir pills with the effects of the Wan Pill Cauldron, a young man from Yongchang Immortal Sect added with a smile. Wan Pill Cauldron. Mu Wanbai gasped. That was a level 13 alchemy furnace used by immortals. When used for refining elixir pills, the success rate would be greatly enhanced. However, Mu Wanbai turned around and said, Sister Bebe, Sister Bailing. That guy in Yongchang City is really incredible. Sister Shui's Bo Yu was restored by him. Moreover, he used the remaining materials to forge 6 level 11 hidden weapon type spiritual weapons. Sister Shui couldn't afford them. However, that guy said he could reduce the price a little if Sister Shui introduces customers to him. That guy restored Great Senior Sister's Bo Yu sword. Upon hearing her, Bebe and Bailing were astonished. They also knew Great Senior Sister's Bo Yu sword was chipped. It was exceptionally difficult to restore. They were shocked that the guy was able to restore it and curious about the identity of that guy. Yeah. He's an extreme cheapskate. Mu Wanbai nodded her head and continued, however, that guy is really incredible. He is a blacksmith master despite being just in his 20s. A blacksmith master in his 20s? That's not possible. Before Mu Wanbai could finish her words, senior brother Yifeng interrupted with a definitive tone. Yeah. It's impossible to become a blacksmith master in one's 20s. How can there be such a young blacksmith master? Our senior brother O Ziming is already regarded as a 1 in 1,000 years blacksmith genius for being able to refine inborn spiritual equipment. How can there be a blacksmith master in his 20s? It wasn't just the few disciples from Yongchang Immortal Sect who snorted. Even Bebe, Bailing and other female disciples of Empty Shui couldn't believe it as they shook their heads. Although I don't believe he's a blacksmith master either, the truth is the truth. Sister Shui's Bo Yu sword was indeed restored by him. Seeing that the group didn't believe her, Mu Wanbai pouted and added this remark. Are you sure? A blacksmith master in his 20s? Putting aside Yongchang world, there's not a single person who became a blacksmith master at this age. Senior brother Yifeng snorted with indignance. Chapter 571, Demon-like Master, 3. One could only be called a master if they topped the world in any domain. The female disciples of Empi Shui would not believe that someone in his 20s had become a blacksmith master, let alone those few Yongchang youths. I'm saying the truth. Sister Shui's Bo Yu was fixed there. If you don't believe me, you can ask her when she gets here. Mu Wanbai argued in fury as some did not believe her. It's not that we don't believe you, but who would ever believe a blacksmith master of such a young age? Bei Ling and Bei Bei said as they quickly tugged Mu Wanbai's arm. Humph. You will know it when you're there. I didn't believe that lad is a blacksmith master either, but it is true. Feeling bitter, Mu Wanbai did not bother to explain any more. All right. Bei Bei soon gave a smile. She nodded and said, we'll get our sisters to prepare the materials for equipment refining. But why do we have to bring along the spiritual grass for refining elixir pills? The shop is called Master of Alchemy and Blacksmith. He said that the more customers he has to refine elixir pills, the more the spiritual stones will be discounted, Mu Wanbai replied. Master of Alchemy and Blacksmith? That shop has a master who can refine elixir pills too. Yi Feng said with a look of irony in his eyes. Great senior sister is here. At this time, a female disciple called out. Instantly, everyone looked ahead after being stunned briefly. You can ask Sister Shui anything you want to know, said Mu Wanbai as she pouted her lips with her gaze brushing over Yi Feng. Piao Ling Xue. Yi Feng and several Yongzang youths looked in the direction where the lady was coming from with solemn expressions. She was wearing clothes that were as white as snow. Her long hair spread behind her and she had a cold expression on her face. She truly looked like a fairy. In fact, to be called a fairy was still an understatement. Being an expert of the budding realm in her 30s, almost no other femme was comparable to her in the entire Yongchang world. Even Yi Feng had to put his arrogance away upon seeing Piao Lingxue. She was a true blue expert after all, an expert who had the potential to become an immortal. Great senior sister. Senior Piao Lingxue. All Empi Shui disciples immediately greeted Piao Lingxue with cupped fists. The youths of the Yongchang immortal sect cupped their fists as well. Piao Lingxue responded with a nod. Wanbai, I suppose you have told everyone about it. Great senior sister, is that blacksmith master really in his 20s? Bei Ling could not hold herself back from asking Piao Lingxue. Indeed, it is quite unimaginable. Piao Lingxue nodded with her arms slightly shaken. Her Bo Yu sword unsheathed itself and was suspended before her eyes. He fixed my spiritual sword and used the Bing Yi metal to construct 6 subsidiary swords. I must get my hands on those swords. So it's true. Astonishment could be seen on the faces of every disciple, including Bei Ling and Bei Bei. If this came from the great senior sister herself, it should be true then. Sister Bei Ling, Sister Bei Bei, why would I lie to you? Mu Wanbai said in a snorting manner. There's really a master in his 20s. Yi Feng frowned and asked with doubts. You'll see for yourself when you get there. Piao Lingxue did not explain further and said, it is a fortune for all disciples of Empi Shui to have a blacksmith master to refine our weapons. Please check and see if any other disciple would like to go. One more thing. Piao Lingxue said with a frown. Please ask around if there is any disciple who needs to refine their elixir pills, and get them to prepare all necessary materials. Yes, great senior sister, we shall go and ask around now. Bei Ling, Bei Bei, and the other female disciples nodded and headed off. Adamta. Shui, the position of a great senior sister was comparable to a mentor. The abilities of the two were almost on par with each other. While some female disciples went around alerting the others, the Yongchang youths were slightly embarrassed. In particular, Yi Feng, who held a gloomy look on his face. Their aim was to befriend Empi Shui. It took them great effort to persuade Senior O Ziming, and on top of that, Yi Feng had a crush on Bei Ling. However, little did they expect that a so-called master would be revealed. Senior Yi Feng, what should we do? We shall tag along and meet this master. Yi Feng answered with no hesitation after one of the youths of the Yongchang immortal sect posed a question. Even if such a blacksmith master does exist, I am not convinced that he's an alchemist. He raised his head slightly, showing intense self-confidence on his face. I, Yi Feng, fear no one. Not a single alchemy master in the entire Yongchang is unknown to me. That's right. There's no one in the entire Yongchang world able to compare themselves to our senior when it comes to alchemy, said several Youthchang youths with smiles on their faces. Great senior sister, all sisters are ready. They became excited upon hearing about the existence of a master of alchemy and blacksmithing. Bei Ling and Bei Bei spoke with smiles on their faces. Within 20 minutes, they had reported back to Piao Lingxue. Initially, the disciples of Empty Shui were already delighted to spend time with those youths from Yongchang. But it did not cross their minds that the great senior sister would be taking them on a trip to meet a master. An ordinary disciple would have to pay a huge price to refine spiritual equipment from a master. These female disciples were not qualified to do such a thing. All right, let's go. Upon seeing a group of 50 to 60 female disciples with materials in their hands, Piao Lingxue smiled and rode on her sword. She flew towards the direction of the Yongchang city. The other disciples followed behind her. However, it was not just those 60 people who followed behind, but rather around 80 people. Amongst them were other Empty Shui disciples who were just curious and youths of other sects who just wished to tag along. It was already nightfall when Piao Lingxue left Wang Xian's shop. Adding up all the traveling time and delays, it was already approximately 7 p.m. With the sky turned dark, it did not attract much attention as the disciples flew towards Yongchang city. It took them just 20 minutes to reach the vicinity of the city. Senior Piao Lingxue, where's that master's shop? I really want to see what a master in his 20s looks like. Yi Feng asked Piao Lingxue, his eyes shining as everyone landed in the city. That's right, where is the master? We heard that he's a super young master. The group of disciples chatted with fervor which added glow to the streets. Let's move. Piao Lingxue led them to Wang Xian's shop. When they reached the shop, they saw Wang Xian sitting inside. Piao Lingxue responded impassively, this is the one. What? Great senior sister, you mean, this small shop is the one? Everyone was dumbfounded by what they saw. Chapter 572, Unparalleled in Refining Elixir Pills and Equipment, 1. All the female disciples from Empty Shui were stunned. Those few other young disciples from Yongchang Immortal Sect were equally shocked as they stared at the shop before them in astonishment. A small shop. Moreover, it was among the smallest shops in the vicinity. Within the shop, the walls were empty without any dazzling spiritual equipment. There wasn't any aroma of elixir pills either. The entire shop was at most 20 to 30 square meters. This is the shop of a master. A master would stay in a shop like this? The group was completely dumbfounded. Senior sister Piao Lingxue, are you sure this is the shop of that master? Would a master stay in a shop like this? A young disciple from Yongchang Immortal Sect found this hilarious and commented. Behind them, the group of disciples from Empty Shui looked at the small shop, baffled. There seems to be a young man in it. Could it be that the young man is the blacksmith master? Why do I find this to be unbelievable? Take a look at the signboard on the doors of the shop. Alchemist Master and Blacksmith Master. How reassuring. The group broke into discussions after seeing the small shop. This is obviously a front for scams. Girls, don't be scammed by them. A middle-aged man passing by reminded them out of goodwill after seeing the group of beautiful girls and hearing their conversation. When the group heard the middle-aged man, they nodded their heads instinctively. The shop is obviously a front for scams. Let's go in. Piao Lingxue took a deep breath. Seeing the small shop once again, she found herself to be a little ridiculous too. Why did I even decide to go in previously? However, she was lucky to have gone in. Otherwise, she would have missed out on a great blacksmith master. Let's go. Seeing their grand senior sister walking in without further explanation, the group of disciples from Invincible entered out of curiosity despite feeling a little weird. I would like to see what kind of master would be in a shop like this. When Yifeng saw the entire small shop, the edge of his mouth inclined upwards as he walked in. It's a shame that the shop was a little too small. After a dozen odd people had gone in, it became a little crowded. This caused the group of disciples from Invincible to feel a little speechless. Every single shop nearing the center of Yongchang City was huge. For large elixir pill shops and weapon shops, customers wouldn't feel squeezed even if there were 100 customers in them. At this moment, Wang Xian saw the group stepping into his shop. Seeing Piao Lingxue and that little brat at the front of the pack, his eyes beamed with excitement. You girls are back. Wang Xian stood up with a smile. He looked around and commented, it seems like Ms. Piao has brought me quite a number of customers. Wang Xian smiled radiantly. From this group of people, he could pick up the smell of metal and spiritual medicine. You are the blacksmith master. Yifeng squinted his eyes, scrutinized Wang Xian from head to bottom and asked plainly. You are interested in refining equipment? Wang Xian looked at Yifeng and asked directly. Refine equipment? Yifeng shook his head and answered plainly, I saw your signboard saying that there is a blacksmith master and alchemist master. I would like to meet both masters. Oh. The shop is small. If you wish to see them, perhaps you can come again when you are here to refine equipment or elixir pills. If you aren't, please get out and let the real customers in. Seeing Yifeng putting up a haughty front, Wang Xian remarked emotionlessly. You. Yifeng was stunned and his face became flushed from embarrassment instantly. These are the customers we have brought you. What do you think? Can you lower the price you charge for refining equipment a little? Two sets of materials for the equipment with 100 spiritual stones for workmanship. As for pills, it would be 3 sets of materials for 3 elixir pills. These are the prices of Saint Forge Workshop. All the other forge workshops and elixir pill shops in the entire Yongchang City also charge around these prices. Although you are a master, I hope you won't charge prices that deviate greatly from these prices. Piao Lingxue said to Wang Xian. For the refining of spiritual equipment, I'm not charging for workmanship. As for elixir pills, I'll give you guys 4 pills. Wang Xian replied directly. What? You are not charging for workmanship? Piao Lingxue was taken aback and astonished. Yeah. Pass me the materials and tell me what kind of weapon you would like. Wang Xian said to the group behind Piao Lingxue. Not charging for workmanship. Are there really such great deals in this world? Really? Behind Piao Lingxue, the group of female disciples from Invincible was shocked to hear Wang Xian. Their eyes widened in shock and were fixed on Wang Xian. They were hesitant. The lower price had instead given them the feeling that this shop wouldn't be reliable. Bei Ling, pass him your materials. Seeing the disciples behind her hesitating, Piao Lingxue spoke to Bei Ling, who was standing beside her. All right, great senior sister. When Bei Ling heard Piao Lingxue, she handed the materials for forging the spiritual equipment to Wang Xian. Level 11 crystal metal. I would like to forge a level 11 spiritual sword. Bei Ling handed the metal to Wang Xian but was still a little doubtful of him. What's the length, thickness, weight and special requirements, if any? Wang Xian took the materials. The 2 sets of materials were each the size of a human head. It was definitely more than 2 sets of materials. I can even have it custom made. Bei Ling was taken aback and looked at Wang Xian in shock. Custom-made weapons. If a blacksmith master was to custom make a weapon for a customer, the price would be hefty. This could be considered as specially crafted and would be a lot more troublesome for the blacksmith master. The fees for custom-made weapons by a blacksmith master would definitely not be lower than 1,000 spiritual stones. It isn't much more troublesome. Tell me all your requirements. Wang Xian said plainly to Bei Ling. All right. Thank you. Bei Ling nodded her head. Following which, she told Wang Xian the most appropriate length, breadth, and weight for her sword. Wait here for 10 minutes. Wang Xian nodded his head as he headed for the second story with the materials. Grand Senior Sister, Is he really a blacksmith master? 10 minutes. 10 minutes to forge level 11 spiritual equipment. When Bei Ling heard Wang Xian, she was once again shocked as she asked Piao Lingxue blankly. Yeah. Grand Senior Sister, how could he possibly finish a piece of spiritual equipment in 10 minutes? Moreover, we are talking about level 11 spiritual equipment. Which blacksmith master wouldn't take 1 to 2 days? The surrounding disciples turned to their great senior sisters and clearly couldn't believe Wang Xian. You will know in 10 minutes. If she had not witnessed him using just 10 minutes to restore her Boyu sword and forge 6 other miniature Boyu swords, she wouldn't have believed either. 10 minutes. It's impossible to forge level 11 spiritual equipment in 10 minutes. Putting aside blacksmith master, even a blacksmith grand master wouldn't be capable of that. If he really forges level 11 spiritual equipment in 10 minutes, I will eat the spiritual equipment. Yi Feng heard Wang Xian. With his understanding of refining equipment, he snorted and remarked right away. That's right. Even senior brother O Ziming requires a day to forge an inborn spiritual weapon. Even if he relied on a level 12 forging table, he would still require several hours. How could he possibly forge level 11 spiritual equipment in 10 minutes? Senior Sister Piao Lingxue, is this a scam? Another disciple beside Yi Feng also commented with indignance. Chapter 573, Unparalleled in Refining Elixir Pills and Equipment, 2. The crowd of female disciples from Shui were utterly bewildered upon hearing the words from the 2 disciples of Yongchang Immortal Sect. In fact, they would have just lashed out saying that this was an errant shop had it not been for their great senior sister. But even then, the disciples began to talk amongst themselves with some even wanting out. Just give it another 10 minutes, and you'll see. Piao Lingxue chided, which shushed the crowd of Shui disciples immediately. After all, Piao Lingxue remained a highly prestigious figure back at Shui. I wonder if he'll actually chomp the sword down. Should we really refine a piece of spiritual equipment by waiting for just another 10 minutes? Mu Wanbai uttered in a hushed tone. She had lost all good impressions of this senior brother Yi Feng during their interaction within an hour. Junior Sister Wanbai. Let's put it this way. Even if he's a deity, it's impossible for him to refine and come up with spiritual equipment of level 11 in 10 minutes. With a cold laugh, Yi Feng sneered at Mu Wanbai with certainty after hearing her comments. Then we shall wait and see. Mu Wanbai rebuked as she eyed Yi Feng. I'm more interested in this so-called blacksmith master, and what tricks he has up his sleeve. Yi Feng replied. He was somewhat convinced by Piao Lingxue by the latter's mention of the presence of a blacksmith master where they were right now. But, he was now in complete disbelief after seeing the humble shop for himself, along with the young man inside. All the more so as the young man boasted of being able to refine level 11 spiritual equipment in 10 minutes. With arms akimbo, Yi Feng stood watching nonchalantly. The atmosphere was somewhat tense right then as silence filled the crowd. 10 minutes was an extremely short period to speak of. Meanwhile, Wang Xian was located on the second floor as he looked at the remaining metal with pleasant surprise. These metals are enough to construct a long sword along with another dagger. Such a bonus! Wang Xian chirped excitedly. A piece of level 11 spiritual equipment could fetch up to 15,000 spiritual stones, given the market rates. Meaning to say, upon completion of this sword, he would then have gained 20,000 spiritual stones, which would allow him to purchase a level 6 elixir pill. A level 6 elixir pill could help Wang Xian gain more than 100,000 dragon energy. These were but the benefits from a mere business deal. Upon ascension to level 9, my future is bright. Wang Xian exclaimed with glistening eyes. Form, he commanded while eyeing the spiritual equipment in front of him. Swoosh! The long sword let out a crisp clang while Wang Xian beamed with satisfaction. Exactly 10 minutes, he chimed. Zing! With a swing of his arm, the long sword before him went flying downstairs. Zoom! A swishing sound descended from the second floor. What's that? The crowd asked in confusion as they remained standing within the shop. With the utmost vigilance, some of the disciples even braced themselves by clutching onto their long swords as they saw the flying sword approaching. As it neared, the long sword spun in a circle before it halted right in front of Bei Ling. Everyone was stunned. They stared at the long sword which hung in suspension before Bei Ling in utter astonishment. The level 11 spiritual equipment for this lady is ready. Just then, a faint call could be heard coming from the level above. It's ready. Bei Ling stuttered with a look of disbelief as she gazed intently at the long sword before her. Everyone all around focused their gaze on this long sword. The long sword shimmered. Its entire body boasted a dazzling shine and appeared incredibly sharp. Bei Ling looked on with euphoria. With a swing of her arm, she grabbed onto the sword handle. Zing! Blinding blue rays gushed up the sword as she held onto it. With a slight shift of her energy focus, it led to a series of ripples from the blue energy of the sword. Level 11 spiritual equipment. A piece of level 11 spiritual equipment indeed. Bei Ling cried out at the top of her lungs while her eyes became fired up with rhapsody. What's more, this long sword fits my exact description, in length, width, and weight. Good sword, a good sword indeed. What? Everyone questioned with looks of disbelief upon hearing Bei Ling's words. How's this possible? How long has it been? To think, a piece of level 11 spiritual equipment has since been refined and ready? Goodness, such blinding aqua rays. No doubt a level 11 spiritual equipment. A blacksmith master indeed. The crowd of disciples gushed in cries of awe and astonishment. It's only natural. Should I be deceiving you otherwise? Wang Xian smiled to the crowd as he descended from the level above. Meanwhile, Yi Feng and several youths from the Yongchang immortal sect were absolutely stunned. This, they uttered while gazing at the spiritual sword in disbelief. 10 minutes, it can't be. This is absolutely impossible. Yi Feng let out a low growl in utter skepticism. To refine and create spiritual equipment in 10 minutes was something he found to be impossible regardless of who it was. Hee, it's impossible for you guys. But that doesn't mean it's impossible for me. Wang Xian said to Yi Feng rather indifferently. Yi Feng stood dazed for a moment while staring at Wang Xian intently. He had a burning desire to rebuke the latter. Yet, he had no idea how to go about with his rebuttal given that the length, width, and weight of the long sword fit the exact descriptions set forth by Bei Ling. Could it be that he's really able to refine level 11 spiritual equipment in 10 minutes? Yi Feng muttered with a gloomy expression. He gazed at the long sword and let out a deep sigh. At the sight, Mu Wanbai was slightly tickled. See what I mean? This shop may be very miserly, but it really does house a blacksmith master. She chuckled as if to say that she had really been honest with them. A faint grin stretched across Piao Lingshue's face. Upon the sight, Wang Xian broke into a brief smile. Should any of you still wish to refine more spiritual equipment, just pass me the materials and state your requirements, he said to the rest of the crowd. I want to refine spiritual equipment. Me too, me too. I'd like to have a sword refined as well, handsome master. In an instant, the crowd of empty Shui disciples was driven into a craze upon the sight of the level 11 spiritual equipment which Bei Ling was holding. To have a customized weapon made by a master blacksmith free of charge. Such a great deal was 1 in a million within the entire Yongchang fraternity. Huh. That's quite a few. Wang Xian gasped with a glow in his eyes when he saw the group of girls closing in with various materials in hand. But, rather than the materials, Wang Xian was more interested in spiritual grasses. There are too many of you. Can you all find paper and pen and write your requirements down before passing the materials to me? In addition, is there anyone who wants to refine elixir pills? If so, that'll take 3 portions of materials, and I'll give you 4 elixir pills. Wang Xian called out to the crowd. Are you also an alchemist master, handsome master? Upon hearing Wang Xian's words, one of the girls could not help but blurt her question out. In an instant, the girl's question also caught the attention of the rest as Piao Lingxue and Mu Wanbai gazed intently at Wang Xian. Yes. Wang Xian answered without the slightest hesitation. I'm able to refine all elixir pills below level 12, and the price I offer is much more affordable than the other elixir stores, he added. TSK. The crowd gasped and took one deep breath right after Wang Xian had finished his line. How? How's this possible? Are you really a wicked genius? How can one be both a master alchemist and a master blacksmith all at once? The same girl from earlier exclaimed with a shaking voice while the rest of the girls stared at Wang Xian in both shock and awe. In response, Wang Xian only smiled briefly. Perhaps, an unprecedented genius who's unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment really does exist in this world. Chapter 574, Unparalleled in Refining Elixir Pills and Equipment, 3. This cannot be possible. This definitely cannot be possible. If one said that Wang Xian was a blacksmith master and he could forge a level 11 spiritual equipment in 10 minutes, it would already be enough to make one feel a sense of disbelief. If one was to tell him that Wang Xian was also an alchemist master, he definitely wouldn't believe it. An unparalleled genius in both fields. There was probably not a single person throughout history and into the future who would be so demon-like. At this moment, Yi Feng's understanding of the world was thrown into disarray. He definitely wouldn't believe there would be a single person who was an alchemist master and blacksmith master at the same time. It was especially so considering that this person looked just like a young, 20-year-old man. This cannot be possible. Some blacksmiths spend their entire lives engrossed in refining equipment and yet they find it hard to reach the realm of a blacksmith master. Some alchemists spent their entire lives refining elixir pills and yet they can't refine level 6 spiritual pills. I don't believe it. I don't believe you are an alchemist master. Yi Feng could no longer hold back as he screamed at Wang Xian. He was an alchemist himself and was widely regarded as the most outstanding alchemist in the younger generation of the entire Yongchang world. Even so, he could barely refine level 5 elixir pills currently. Moreover, his success rate was a meager 20%. In other words, he would only succeed once with 5 sets of materials. A success rate like this wasn't high for an alchemist. However, considering his age, it was a commendable achievement. In fact, if he could use a level 13 alchemy furnace, he could still give level 6 elixir pills a shot. Level 6 elixir pills were also considered to be the benchmark of a grandmaster. Yet, this man who was even younger than him claimed to be an alchemist master. He couldn't believe him. As an alchemist, he knew the difficulties of refining elixir pills. Huh? Wang Xian raised an eyebrow, looked to Yi Feng and said, "What do you even know?" "What do I know?" Hearing Wang Xian questioning him, Yi Feng's expression turned as cold as ice. He stared intensely at Wang Xian and replied in a solemn voice, "What do I know? I've been refining elixir pills since I was 10 years old. I was once guided by an immortal realm expert and can even refine level 5 elixir pills currently. You are asking me what I know? In the entire Yongchang world, if my Yi family claimed to be second in refining elixir pills, no one would dare to claim to be first. You are asking me what I know? Are you questioning my ability?" Yi Feng's lips curved into a smirk. "I can't deny you are a blacksmith master. However, if you are saying you are both a blacksmith master and alchemist master, it's impossible. I have the capital to deny your claims." Yi Feng stared harshly at Wang Xian as he shouted coldly. "Hee hee." Wang Xian looked at him with contempt. The surrounding disciples from Empichue frowned upon hearing Yi Feng's questions. They were a little doubtful. However, Wang Xian completing level 11 spiritual equipment in an insanely short period had convinced many of these disciples. They were merely suspecting and doubting but not refuting the possibility completely. "You are questioning his identity as an alchemist master now? Didn't you say if he could forge the spiritual equipment in 10 minutes, you would eat it?" When Mu Wanbai heard Yi Feng, she remarked in this way. Her irk for him had grown as she grumbled softly. "Shut up. Don't speak if you don't understand anything." Yi Feng heard Mu Wanbai, turned to her instantly and shouted. When Mu Wanbai heard him shouting at her, she was shocked initially. However, this quickly turned to anger. The disciples from Shui were also shocked when Yi Feng shouted at Mu Wanbai. "Young Master Yi Feng, please watch your actions and words." Piao Lingxue looked coldly at Yi Feng and reminded. "Hee hee. A family of alchemists? A supreme talent?" Wang Xian looked to a disciple from Mishue and said, "Pass me the spiritual medicine you have prepared." "Huh? Handsome master, you are." The girl was surprised but still took out the spiritual medicine from her bag. There was a total of 75 spiritual medicines with 3 sets of each variety. These were the materials for refining level 5 elixir pills. To slap the face of a pile of trash. Wang Xian replied directly. "You." Yi Feng's expression was contorted from anger after hearing Wang Xian. His eyes were cold and he didn't take the warning from Piao Lingxue to heart. "Here, handsome master." The girl handed the spiritual medicine she'd brought to Wang Xian. Channel's cleansing pill." Wang Xian looked at the materials and asked the girl. "Yeah. Level 5 elixir pill, Channel's cleansing pill." The girl nodded her head as she replied right away. Her bright eyes remained fixed on Wang Xian. Wang Xian moved his arms and the area before him was shrouded in water energy right away. Wang Xian squinted his eyes while placing the tufts of spiritual medicine on it. Gradually, they melted. Refining elixir pills on the spot. Handsome master is going to refine elixir pills before us. Could it be that he's really an alchemist master? Handsome master is so confident of it. He definitely is an alchemist master. He's too cool. Oh, he's so stunning. A blacksmith master that also knows about refining elixir pills. If only I could find a husband like him. When the group of female disciples saw Wang Xian starting to refine elixir pills before them, they were certain that Wang Xian was an incredible alchemist master. They looked at Wang Xian and could feel their hearts palpitating rapidly. A blacksmith master who was quite possibly also an alchemist master. Who could possibly be a match to an unparalleled demon-like talent like him? No one. Art of water refining, art of water refining. When Yi Feng saw that Wang Xian had started refining elixir pills before him, he had a bad premonition. Nonetheless, he still refused to believe a person could be so demon-like. What incredible and precise control. His art of water refining is really strong. Piao Lingxue saw Wang Xian starting to refine elixir pills with the art of water refining. Seeing his control over water energy, she was astonished. She was completely in awe over the extent of the control, as she was certain that she didn't possess such ability. Seeing Wang Xian refining elixir pills with the art of water refining, Yi Feng's expression was constantly changing. He specialized in the art of refining elixir pills with fire. As for the art of water refining, he wasn't adept at it. Even so, he could still see the smooth actions of Wang Xian. The spiritual medicine dissolved rapidly and was soon separated and combined. He was really, really fast. He's insanely fast. I once saw an alchemist refine elixir pills with the art of water refining. However, he was a lot slower than the handsome master. A girl saw Wang Xian's actions and exclaimed, "Form, form, form, form." At this moment, Wang Xian shouted softly. At the surface of the water screen, droplets of elixir pills coalesced rapidly. Following this, they cooled rapidly with the help of water energy. "Done!" Wang Xian shouted. Moving his hand across, 4 elixir pills hovered in the air before him. He lifted his head nonchalantly, looked across the crowd and eventually at Yi Feng. "Trash! Look! Level 5 elixir pills, channels cleansing pills." You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.